thank you for joining myself. I'm Jessica Berg. I'm the director of the Minnesota Cup, and here with Katrina, who runs the Finnovation Lab's Finnovation Fellowship, which we're really excited to share our programs with you and give you a sense of what to expect, or sort of just tell you even the basics about sort of what we do and who we serve from a like an entrepreneurial ecosystem perspective. But we're really grateful to have Judd Gretman and Michelle Marins from We Sparkle to speak to you, who've been through both of our programs. So getting their firsthand experiences, giving you an opportunity to ask them questions about what both programs were like, sort of what they offered and what they didn't at different stages for their companies is super exciting. So we're very grateful for Judd and Michelle's time, and it's very likely, I'm still hopeful, that we'll have Jules Porter from Seraph 7 Studios joining us. She's coming in hot from another responsibility, so she might jump in as we're discussing. But yeah, we're just grateful to all of you for being here. So I am going to just tee up like the first couple of questions for you, Judd and Michelle, to answer if you want to jump in or something particularly resonates with you. But if you don't mind starting by sharing kind of your background, like a short spiel about your company, kind of what you're up to, sort of the purpose of your business. And I'm also particularly curious what kind of entity you are, because a big question that comes up for us in the Impact Ventures division is, do I have to be a not-for-profit, or do I have to be a B Corp or something? And the short answer is no, you don't. But I think it's cool to hear what different social entrepreneurs or social ventures, like how you're thinking about that, or why you chose what you did. So I'll give you the floor, but do either of you want to go first?
I know you have a hard stop, Judd, so do you want to kick it off?
Sure, I'm happy to go. So yeah, nice to see you all. I'm Judd Gretman. I'm the founder of Vonzella, and we're a Minneapolis-based public benefit corporation that's pioneering novel insurance products for underrepresented communities. And so the first product we're working on is a bail insurance product where we're treating being arrested and having to pay bail like an accident. So if you have our coverage and need help getting out of jail, we provide that to you. We are committed to helping everyday people stay out of jail and moving on with their lives free of this world of mass incarceration. And we're doing it with a for-profit entity that basically aligns corporate incentives with those of our users. And so I ultimately got very into this, even though I was a lawyer practicing law, because I started seeing sort of the power of social entrepreneurship to make the changes I wanted to see in our justice system. We are, as I mentioned, a public benefit corporation. So just to answer that question, that's we are a for-profit entity, but we have a mission or a public benefit purpose, which again is to help underrepresented people stay out of jail, which ultimately has societal benefits. We actually became a public benefit corporation while we were in the Finnovation Lab program. That was something that was stressed and is something that's gaining more traction because it's really the legal mechanism for maintaining your social purpose or whatever your public benefit might be. It's really, there is some distinction between B Corps and public benefit corporations. B Corps are have like a certification, but it's really the benefit corporation that you set up that makes you able to focus on your mission. I want to speak. I first just want to say, I would not be taking some time right now for this if these two programs weren't so influential in my career and Vonzella's career, which is the company I started. I moved here because of the Finnovation Lab. I was living in New York, but I was working on something that was really focused on Minnesota. And so it was an amazing entree for me to get here. But beyond that, it was an incredible 9 months to sort of plug in, grow as a leader, but also, you know, work on your business without the pressures of daily life. I was trying to be a social entrepreneur and having a side job to pay bills, and this really enabled me to commit full time to this. So that was huge. And then both the lab and the Minnesota Cup were, I think, really complementary ways of just plugging in general for me. And it was a way to connect with people who wanted to work on this project or this company. And I sort of looked at the Minnesota Cup as a project. However, it was a very significant building block for us because unlike the Finnovation Lab, which provided funds that I could use for myself to continue dedicating time to this, this was an opportunity to get funds for our business. And when we did win those funds, it was a game changer for us because we've now been able to launch a product and do different things and really had no opportunity to do so before. So I would say, like, I'm happy to, I don't know if we're doing any of the questions now, but I'm happy to take some.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'll kick it to Michelle to just do her high level intro so people sort of know which perspectives
Sure.
have to share, and then we'll jump into some of those other questions. But that was perfect, Judd. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Michelle Tran-Marins. I am the Sparkler in Chief of We Sparkle. We are building a stronger and more inclusive economy by equipping underestimated entrepreneurs with the AI power tools they need to succeed. We started off as an LLC back when I started the Finnovation Fellowship at the end of 2018. And then after we won the Minnesota Cup Impact Division at the end of 2019, we converted into a public benefit corporation at the very beginning of 2020. So we are, like Judd, a for-profit entity, but with a public benefit mission. And we are actually a Delaware public benefit corporation, but we are headquartered here in Minneapolis.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I'll maybe start with the first question. You both alluded to it a little bit, but Katrina and I find, and it comes up every year of, especially when we do these info sessions together, that some folks think they should do Minnesota Cup first or second, or they don't know, because we are, as a program, open to people who you don't even need to have an entity formed. You can truly just have a straight up idea that you want some support and feedback for. You do not need to be very far along in your process to participate in Minnesota Cup. But it can be common for people to do a Finnovation Fellowship and then apply and have a really good chance to get into Min Cup because they've, laid the groundwork and they've gotten a lot of different opportunity to dive deep and like think more deeply about what they're working on. So I'm curious for both of you, if you wouldn't mind sharing when you did each program, and then if you just have advice, or if you could say in whatever simple way you can think of it. I know that it's not simple, but Finnovation Lab helped me do X, Minnesota Cup helped me do X. That'd be awesome.
Sure. So I participated in the Finnovation Lab, and then at the end of the 9 months is when I started applying for the Minnesota Cup. What we've been working on is essentially like pre-product until very recently. And so my suggestion, at least if you're coming from that kind of angle, is that it's probably your chances of success on both fronts are probably, well, I would say your chances of success on the Minnesota Cup are probably better off if you have more sort of traction in other respects. So like for myself, example, we hadn't sold a product, but by having participated in the Finnovation Lab, I was able to spend time and develop partners that I was, getting sort of like uh, soft acceptances from, that they would participate in a product if I could get that off the ground. So to that extent, I would say, you're really judged on your business plan. And so like that was something we worked on heavily in the Finnovation Lab as well. So I don't know, I would say that there's, if you're at a big, very early stage, at least just from how we did, I would say having the building blocks of participating in the Finnovation Lab was critical.
I agree with Judd. I was similar. I did the Finnovation Fellowship, and that really gave me the time and resources to be able to focus on research, discovery, understanding my customer, interviewing them, observing them, and designing the product or service to be the best that it can be, so that when I got the capital from the Minnesota Cup, I was really able to bring that vision to life more. And before I did the Finnovation Fellowship, I've been helping entrepreneurs for a long time. So I actually did help some other startups go through the Minnesota Cup competition, including one that won the student division a few years ago. And I would say, having been part of the Minnesota Cup process before the Finnovation Fellowship and then seeing it myself after the Finnovation Fellowship, I think it's really helpful to have that fellowship program, because I think Judd's right. The further along you are, the better. I mean, Minnesota Cup, you can just be an idea and you'll still get great feedback and you'll still get a lot of value out of it. But to continue progressing, obviously judges often look for traction. How much work have you spent on it? And it's sometimes hard to do that when you have a full-time job. You're trying to do this, weekends, evenings, wherever you can fit it in. And so having a fellowship or some sort of program like that to help give you the space and time to do that work is really amazing and helpful, and will help move you along the Minnesota Cup process as well.
I just noticed that Jules Porter was able to join us. We're so excited to have you, Jules. Thank you for jumping in your super busy day. But I am going to give you a quick catch up and then give you a chance to weigh in as well, because I think just the multiple years you've participated in different programs might be a cool perspective to share as well. But the question you're walking into is, when did you participate in Finnovation Lab versus Minnesota Cup? Sometimes the order of that can be a cool experience to speak to. And then if you also just want to give a quick kind of overview of what your business is and sort of what you're working on, that'd be awesome.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thanks, Jessica. And hello, everybody. Hello, Katrina, Judd, Michelle, the whole crew. Can I just name everybody? Just hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm sorry that I was a little bit late. I was in a court hearing today that went a bit late. So I work as an attorney. And then I also started Seraph 7 Studios, which makes video games that have more Black and brown melanated characters that tell exciting stories. We also have an applied advanced STEAM course for local high school students that's in development right now. And I'm so excited about that program because my education team has turned it from a 1-year program into a 3-year program. And we have some local corporations that have kind of weighed in, are super excited to get involved and help provide internships and interviews for these kids. And so that makes me just so happy. So I'm very happy to be here. So my idea started when I was a JD MBA student at the University of St. Thomas. So I participated in some competitions there, and that's when I learned about the Minnesota Cup from the School of Entrepreneurship at St. Thomas. So I actually participated in the Minnesota Cup for 2 years before I applied for the Finnovation Fellowship. And I think that was amazing experience. It was good to be able to kind of further develop my idea through the Minnesota Cup process, to have a mentor, to have feedback, to be able to start developing like some financials with my mentor from the Minnesota Cup, so that I was ready when I applied for the Finnovation Fellowship. I already had a few versions of my business plan. I had some financials done, and I was already able to form up an idea. So then when it came time for the Finnovation fellowship, I was ready to take that break from my regular job and step away from the law in order to further shape up my company and my idea. And it was so awesome, to the point where my game is on track to launch this year. And like I said, I'm so excited about this curriculum. Like I'm so like the impact that this will have for the community. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jules. You dove right in, so that was a perfect summary to catch you up. I'm wondering, Katrina, do you like, I can just keep rattling off. I have all these different things I want to ask about or get updates from these alumni about, but anything that you'd be curious about sharing that might help kind of tee things up for the attendees?
I don't know if I have any questions right now for any of the former fellows and Minnesota Cup participants. I mean, I would just add that like the fellowship is ideally designed kind of a sweet spot. Like we want, you know, very early stage social entrepreneurs. So, you know, we want you to at least have an idea, but if you have been, for example, if you or someone else has been like working full time on your business for a year or more, you would be too far along for the fellowship. So kind of a very early stage. So, you know, like Michelle, for example, came into the fellowship with, she was just at the idea stage. But then Jules, like she shared, for example, she had been working on her idea for a little bit already, but it wasn't to the point where she had been able to, you know, work on it full time for a very long time. So yeah, we don't have like I just want to clarify, we don't have like a hard and fast, like you have to be not operating or you have to have something already, but kind of in that range of idea to operating. So I would just clarify that. But other than that, I don't think I have anything I would add at this point. So go for it, Jessica. Keep asking me questions.
Well, just getting back into that, I do like just to re-emphasize or restate, even though it'll come up over and over, that we're programs that work really closely together. And I think with all of the other startup organizations in the community, we're so lucky in the Twin Cities to have Lunar startups and Beta and the generator programs and just so many different resources. And I think we're all stronger together and not trying to be competitive with each other, but just find the best ways to guide people about like, here's where you are now. What do you need the most? What amount of time do you have to commit to something? And like, is that in alignment with your other responsibilities? So I guess I'm in thinking about that, it's cool to have Jules with sort of a flipped experience of having done Minnesota Cup a couple times and then Finnovation Fellowship. But rather than focusing on the order, if could you all share maybe just the top 2 things that each of our programs kind of helped you achieve or get or accomplish in your journey? Because I know for sure for Minnesota Cup, because we are industry agnostic. You can be any type of company in any industry, almost any stage. Like we do focus on early stage businesses. So we can take on more mature companies than the Finnovation Fellowship can. But our cap is that if you're earning more than $1 million a year in revenue, then you're too big for us, just because we do give away cash prizes and sort of seed capital. And we imagine that if you're earning more than $1 million a year in revenue, you don't need that. So we are focused on early stage companies, but the Impact Ventures division, which I think you're here because you might be interested in applying to that specific division, is focused just on businesses that are willing to do or focused on having a social impact or kind of focusing on a mission in addition to profitability or not-for-profit status. So I'm just curious for all 3 of you, given that you're in this space, what was it that Finnovation Fellowship sort of helped you accomplish or hone? And then what were those things that Minnesota Cup really helped you improve upon or get done?
Awesome. I can kick us off. You asked a few different questions in there, but I will say there's a
Yes.
lot of good synergy between the Minnesota Cup and the Finnovation Lab, especially for the Impact Division, because Finnovation Lab is so focused on making sure you have a social purpose and really maximizing your social impact and benefits for the community while also becoming profitable. And with the Minnesota Cup, I mean, sometimes people ask me with my video game company, why did I choose the Impact Division over the High Tech Division? And for me, it was because I was using existing technology in a way to maximize the impact of that technology for a really big social purpose instead of introducing a new technology to the world. And for me, the biggest things that I got, and really this was from both programs, was being able to expand my entrepreneurship network. Before the Minnesota Cup and before the Finnovation Lab, I really didn't have one. I was building up a network in the law, and then with the MBA program, it was cool to be able to, go to corporations and talk to like their C-suites. But I really didn't have a place in the startup community or any friends there. And so now I have a lot, and that's amazing. And so just that network is really, really important and powerful, especially also seeing the other types of social entrepreneurs that are out there, the good work we're doing, and how we can assist each other and help each other out. The other big thing that I got from both was mentorship. That was something I love, having mentors. I love having people that I can just go to one-on-one, talk to, be honest with, ask my real questions and get real help and feedback and be kind of connected into their networks. And so my mentor from the Minnesota Cup, I actually brought with me to the Finnovation Lab, and then at the Finnovation Lab, picked up a few other mentors and people that could help me with additional expertise that I needed now that I had a good understanding more of what I needed in some direction from Finnovation Lab, and helping me understand things that I didn't even realize that I needed. So for me, those were the two biggest things.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jules. I know, Judd, you might have to
Yeah.
soon, so I'll
Yeah,
let you
no
go
worries.
next.
No worries. Thank you. Definitely echo that. I want to say both programs, I think, I'm confident, have very strong reputations in the community, and I think to a certain extent, like, are very much feet in the door. And so that for me was critical. Having moved here and just getting plugged in, the Finnovation Lab really was a huge resource, both in terms of programming that they do and also just, working to get you connected with a network. And for us, the biggest thing was that we really developed like a larger team, met other entrepreneurs locally that really have helped Vonzella get to a different level. In terms of the Minnesota Cup, I would just echo the mentorship piece. Like, we had a mentor who is a business school professor who like kind of ran us through, work, and it really helped. And so, I think that they're both, again, really what you make of them. And I do think that they really will reward you if you put a lot of effort into it. So I guess those are mine. And I guess the Minnesota Cup also is like a very good showcase of you and your work, regardless of how far you advance, really. Like, it's a good amount of free publicity for you. So there's that aspect, which is huge.
Thank you. Super cool.
I think for me, the Finnovation Fellowship was really helpful for my own personal leadership and growth. I think that I had always wanted to start a business since I was very young. My mom was a small business owner, and she inspired me from a young age to want to go that route someday. But I also, felt a little risk averse. I have refugee parents, so they always, instilled in me to have a stable, steady job, and entrepreneurship, that you do take certain risks. And so I think the Finnovation Fellowship really gave me the courage to take that leap and to start a business. And so for me, the fellowship was really about me growing as a business leader and spending a lot of time on that so that I had the strength to then move on. And I felt like the Minnesota Cup was a great step for me after that, because my fellowship ended and I was still in the Minnesota Cup process. And so that kept me on target with the deadlines of needing to turn in a business plan, needing to turn in financial projections, and just kept me going and kept me motivated. So for me, that was a really good sequence of events. And the Minnesota Cup process for me was more about, okay, I am very grounded in who I am as a business leader and what my mission is and the value that this social enterprise is bringing to our community. Now I need to learn how to share that with other people and communicate that effectively. And I think the Minnesota Cup really helped me with that. Like Judd said, there was a lot of visibility, and winning that division and then getting some angel investment after that competition really gave me the capital I needed to start and launch our product. So I think those were kind of the differences. But, I also want to say, no matter where you are in the process, whether you go through the fellowship program, whether you go through Minnesota Cup, there's a lot of other resources too. Don't be disheartened if you don't get into one, or if maybe you don't make it to the next level with the other. There are so many resources out there, and they're there to help move you along to get you to that next step. So, search out, there are a lot of things here that are free that you can take advantage of. So, those are just two really great resources, especially for impact entrepreneurs, because we're sort of a small emerging group of people. And sometimes I think, especially if you're in the tech industry, people are like, what is a social enterprise? So it's a really supportive community.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Super helpful. And Judd did include his email in the chat if any of you want to reach out or you have specific questions or would just want to connect with him more about the amazing work they're doing with Bonzella. But he just had another meeting at 12:30, so he had to jump. But I'm curious. I know Katrina and I have our spiels and can offer a lot of other resources and answer sort of technical questions about our own programs. So we're here for that, and we have some more time at the back half of this webinar to walk you through those basics. But just following up on all the great experiences that Michelle and Jules have shared, do any of you who are on the webinar have questions for either of them so far? Just put you on the spot. If you don't, that's fine, and we can keep rolling, but want to give you the floor if you do.
Yeah, I'd love to ask Michelle specifically, as someone who went through the fellowship and then to the Minnesota Cup. And it sounded like you went into the Minnesota Cup directly after. So fellowship ended by June and you were already in the Minnesota Cup process, correct?
Yes, I applied and then the fellowship ended and I was still in the Minnesota Cup process. So there was some overlap, but basically I had ended the fellowship and I was still going in through the Minnesota Cup process.
Okay, and I would love to know then, in that kind of like what that balance was for you, like focusing on the fellowship and still applying for the application, because I think it's extensive. I haven't seen all of the application process, but what was that balance like for you, as well as kind of where you were at with your business plan? What did you feel you needed in addition to apply for the application that you hadn't already done yet in the fellowship at that point, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so for me, and I know it's different for everyone, but I had begun the process. And so answering the questions for the Minnesota Cup application was fairly easy for me because I had done a lot of the research to answer the first few questions that are in the phase one. And then as I progressed along, it was more about refining it and adding more to it, because you have mentorship from the Minnesota Cup program, not just a mentor assigned to you, but they have these workshops that are really helpful. So I got to know more. For me, we're a software as a service company, and I got to meet a lot of other SaaS, software as a service companies. And so that gave me more information to really strengthen my business plan. So it worked really well because I had started everything in the fellowship, and it was just adding more information based on what I learned in the workshops.
And if I could just jump in, the application for the Minnesota Cup isn't too challenging at all. It's actually very approachable and pretty simple. Now, I shouldn't say simple, but it's all about being concise. I mean, it's just when you compare it to the Finnovation application, I'd ask you for a bit more. So it's a bit more concise in being able to get your point across very effectively, very efficiently. And then once you make it through that first process, if you become a semifinalist, that's when you really roll up your sleeves and put in the work to getting your like 10-page business plan done, your pitch deck, and working with your mentors. And if they have like free sessions and help that they provide you. So I would take advantage of that, especially like if you want to like shape up your financials and things like that. But the first phase of the application, don't be too scared about it, but make sure you prepare and that you can explain things effectively, concisely.
Thank you.
That was a super helpful question, I'm sure, for everybody. So thank you for asking it. We'll get into a couple more details and share a little bit more context for all of you and some specifics. And then we'll take a few more questions before we wrap up. But Katrina, do you want to go first or second? It's totally up to you.
I can go first if you want.
Cool.
Yeah, so my name's Katrina Becker. I'm the program manager for the Finnovation Fellowship. So the fellowship it's a 9-month full-time, fairly intensive program for early stage social entrepreneurs. And it runs mid-September to mid-June. So our goal with this program is to give early stage social entrepreneurs sort of a runway of support with a living stipend. So it's a $50,000 living stipend, $3,000 healthcare stipend. And again, that is only, it's really for you as an individual to use to cover living expenses, learning opportunities like attending a conference or, buying books or attending classes or something like that, in addition to the regular fellowship programming. But you can't use it for any business expenses. So that is one distinction. The fellowship also gives, the purpose of the living stipend is really to give you time and space to devote to working on your idea. So that's the intention of it. You get workspace at Finnovation Lab, coaching and mentorship, and a curriculum that is, a lot of it is focused on the creation of a business plan and kind of all of the elements that go into a business plan. So you end the fellowship program with a really solid business plan, as well as a pitch and presentation. And you also get a huge, like some of the fellows mentioned, really one of the biggest benefits is working as a cohort with other social entrepreneurs. So there are 9, we have a cohort of 9 fellows. And so just learning from each other, working with each other, that is really a huge thing too. And yeah, we're really about building, social impact focused leadership skills and business skills through the development of a social enterprise idea. What else should I say? So applications for our 4th cohort, which is our next cohort, will open mid-April, so April 15th. And you can go to, I put the link to our website in the chat. You can go there and sign up for our newsletter at the bottom of the page. And that will send you updates and be notified when applications open. The deadline to submit applications will be May 15th at midnight. You will need to submit an online application, but we'll post the application questions in a separate document, and then we would recommend you download those, fill out your answers to those questions in a separate document so that you can just copy and paste into the online application. You also need a letter of reference and a resume, and then you have the option to submit a link to a short video if you want to use that. Yeah, and I'll put my email in the chat as well if you have any other questions. But if anyone has, since it's a small group, if you have any specific questions about, criteria or eligibility or who we're looking for, please feel free to ask. But I could also just generally talk about those. But first, I'll let Jessica talk about Minnesota Cup more.
Awesome, thank you. Well, that was super helpful. It's always fun for me too to be like, oh yeah, that's right. Like get reminders of what everybody else is up to. So Minnesota Cup is a competition format, but we often are described as being similar to an incubator program and sort of what we offer and sort of the structure and the opportunities and resources that we provide. We are open for applications from March 15th to April 16th. So we're almost like a month ahead of the Finnovation Fellows application, but they are open for a month. We have a ton of different help sessions and opportunities to support you as you fill the application out. Our purpose, I shared a little bit more about who can apply, like what our criteria are at the beginning, but to restate that, we are open to any entrepreneurs in the state of Minnesota, the whole state, who are earning less than $1 million a year in revenue. You do not need to have an entity formed. You don't need to have a certain level of traction to be part of our process. We do care about in our application focuses on your opportunity plan and progress. But as Jules shared, we keep it as lo-fi and straightforward as possible because we really do want early stage people to feel like it's for them and to not be scared off by business jargon and be sort of intimidated or feel like, oh, like I need to be further along before I try this. Particularly speaking to a group of, or with a group now of primarily women, it's so often the case that women feel like, well, I don't meet 100% of the criteria, so I'm not going to put my name in for this. And we just would encourage you, please apply. The very worst case is that we hear from a lot of our applicants that just putting together and having to work through how to answer the questions in our application in a concise way is really meaningful, whether you're a solo entrepreneur or if you have a team that you're working with. So many of our alumni say, this forced me and my co-founder to sit down and like make sure we were on the same page or in alignment about what was more important or how we wanted to describe our vision and our mission and our purpose. So we really want the application to be open to anyone and to be as supportive and accessible as possible. So I put a link in the chat. So if you want to do a live walkthrough of the application with myself or my coworker, Jamie, we're doing those throughout the months of March and April when our applications are open, and would love to walk you through it, clarify anything. Our application is completely online and it's mostly just typed text answers. So like Katrina shared, you can either edit it in our form and save it and come back to it, or you can work on it in a different doc and just paste in everything when you feel like you're ready to submit it. So that's the application component. Our actual program, or sort of what it means if you get accepted or you move forward to the next round based on your application, takes place primarily in the summer. So the vast majority of events and sort of programming is going to take place between late May and late September. So we also acknowledge and appreciate that the vast majority of people going through our process are not yet working on their company full time. There's certainly people who are, but unlike Finnovation Fellowship, where you get a stipend and the purpose of you being in the program is to work on your business full time or to give you that space and capacity, we're interested in giving you more time and flexibility. So we take place over a number of weeks. You definitely have work to get done. It's not like it's a small time commitment, but we try to structure everything with the idea that you're doing this work and you're advancing your idea and you're getting support in addition to whatever other life responsibilities you have going on, whether that's another job or if you're a parent or a caretaker in some other way, or just have all the numerous things we all have going on. We want to make it feel like it's something that you can start now and you can make progress, and we can inject you with resources and support and a network that can even help you like fine tune things before you would decide to leave a day job or to take on more of that direct risk. So the process is, I guess it's not as long as the Finnovation Fellowship, but we are longer than most other incubator or accelerator programs. That said, it's kind of a choose your own adventure. So we have some of these deadlines and requirements that will keep you on track that you will need to break into smaller pieces and stay focused on to sort of finish everything. But all of the education and resources, mentorship, sort of when and how you engage and meet with people and take advantage of what we're offering is up to you, and it's sort of on your own time. So that I think allows a lot of people to try it out that might not otherwise feel comfortable diving into something like this. So that's the time frame. Both Jules and Michelle, who are still on, and Judd with Vonzella, all have gotten to the later stages of our competition process and won prize money. For us, whereas Finnovation Lab invests in you up front and it's a smaller cohort of companies, 90 different companies go through that Minnesota Cup semifinalist process. And so we're just talking about the Impact Ventures division right now with all of you. And that's 10 companies that are selected, but Impact Ventures is just one of 9 of all of our divisions. So it's kind of cool that you get this cohort sort of smaller experiential feeling, but you are also plugging into a much broader network, and you have that visibility and you have that opportunity for us, like a promotional opportunity or press or publicity that's much larger than just your one, like your niche, which is really cool. But that competition process is a way that we can work together with the community to kind of whittle down and determine sort of who's ready for more funding, more investment, who can we inject capital into that it will really help them reach a next milestone in their business, which Michelle and Judd both spoke about. Jules is another cool example, or sort of a different lens or experience on what that support looks like, in that she's been through the competition multiple times, always as a semifinalist, but has still won prize money, even though she didn't make it to the last round. So that we use the competition format not to like pit people against each other. I think everybody would say, like, would share that it's a super collaborative and a super supportive environment. The competition just helps us sort of, or helps our judges. Actually, I don't make any of the selections, thank goodness. It's a group of really smart volunteers in each of those divisions that are making those selections. But the competition process just really helps us narrow toward who gets the money. But yeah, 90 companies go through that, and we really try to offer up as much as we can to help everybody get to the next level in their business, whether you win money or not. So I'll maybe stop there. And I'm sure there may be questions or other things that Katrina and I could both fill in or answer questions about. But before I do that, Jules or Michelle, do you have anything to add or react to based on what either of us said? Or just like things you would either co-sign or add that maybe we missed mentioning?
I would just reiterate, go ahead and apply. It doesn't hurt. And if anything, it helps you clarify your own thoughts and be able to practice communicating that with people. And if I can, I'll just do a little plug here. I volunteer to help out with 1 Million Cups, which happens every Wednesday from 9 to 10 a.m. I'll put the link in the chat here. It's free. Anyone can come. We have 2 companies, 2 businesses present every week. So it doesn't need to be a full-fledged pitch. You know, we've had some people who just have an idea, or some people who are maybe stuck and just want some feedback. It's a very supportive community. So if you want practice sharing your ideas with others so that you can fine tune it. I know I'm constantly fine tuning my pitch and how I present what we're doing with others. I would highly recommend you participate in that, because that might help you get some feedback. You could either get connections, more customers, you know, different people that can help you out. And many of those people go to Minnesota Cup, you know, are mentors for 1 Million Cups. So, or for Finnovation Lab. So it's a good way to start getting to know the community and dip your toe in, and then you'll be that much more ready to sit down and fill out your Minnesota Cup application or fill out your Finnovation Fellowship application.
Thank you, Michelle. That's awesome. Anything from you, Jules? Or would
Yeah. One thing I just had to offer, I think you guys probably saw in the chat, I put to make sure you have your mentor look over your application. And when your awesome application pushes you through to the semifinals round, I think one way to best utilize your mentor is to, instead of sending them the whole thing at the end, try to send them maybe section by section. So that way you can get better feedback, more thoughtful feedback than you might if you waited to the end and sent them the whole thing.
That's an awesome tip. Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot. But I think Judd said this at the beginning, that for both of our programs, you get out what you put into it. So you don't have to be very far along, or you don't have to be a really mature business to do either of our process and get a ton out of it. But if you engage and you invest in the process and you show up to things and you use it as an opportunity or a platform to meet people or get your ideas out there and get that feedback, and you're not afraid to put yourself out there in that way, it is tremendous what people can achieve. But that's kind of just like anything. So it is something that is, especially from the Minnesota Cup perspective, people appreciate the flexibility, but you don't want to be naive about the amount of work it is either. So like Jules recommended, kind of breaking things into smaller pieces, leveraging the resources, getting help, asking people for their input, having somebody read over your stuff is so valuable. And yeah, we hear from everybody that they're like, man, we wouldn't have made a business plan if we weren't forced to in the Minnesota Cup process, because not a lot of people need them or even want to look at them now. It's more pitch deck driven or more driven around other specific financial attachments, but we really do put you through processes and sort of ask for things that we know will serve you, or things that are good for you to be thinking about or doing anyway, whether you're competing for us or not. So that as somebody myself who's super deadline driven, that like, dang, if I didn't have like milestones or due dates or meetings coming up with people, I don't know if I would do any work at all. I can really resonate with how beneficial it is to just have a deadline and know that there's somebody on the other end who you're accountable to, who's going to read it, who's going to give you feedback and going to try to push you along. So that's awesome. And thank you guys too. I'm going to pause there for a second, not fill the silence again, but see if anybody else has questions or things that they want to ask either Katrina or I, or things you've thought of to ask Michelle or Jules.
Can you talk about the Minnesota Cup? I haven't read through it all, about like entrepreneurs looking for like larger businesses versus solopreneurs, or the idea of like it would remain a small business, and just would like to hear thoughts on that.
Yeah. That's a good question. So Minnesota Cup does have the goal and purpose of helping to build the next big Minnesota companies. And so I think when you get to the later stages of the competition, when you're looking at like who's going to win their division and win that prize money, or who's going to win the whole grand prize, you'll often see companies that have the possibility or the goals or objectives to scale, and whether that means actually having a lot of employees or just having a ton of revenue, or something about them is a big idea. It's a breakthrough. It's changing an industry. It's making a big impact. That can look different depending on what industry or what like your company is, but that big goal is important if you're going to be winning a division or winning the grand prize. That said, you don't have to have all of those things in place or figured out or even close to that to apply. We definitely have a lot of people who go through the semifinalist process, like people who are among those 90 who don't even know yet like what their full like big dream aspirations are, but they just know, okay, here's my idea. I want to have this type of impact, or this improvement or change is really needed in this industry or space. And so they just try it. And I think people are often surprised to hear that within those 90 companies, 50% of them are generating revenue and 50% of them are not. So a lot of people who go through a process don't even have, like, are just at a prototype stage, or they're doing some customer discovery where they're trying to like hone in on the problem. And so they've made some progress in that they've been doing work on their business or idea, but it's not a requirement or super important. If your idea is really good, we're not going to penalize you for not being very far. So our application is structured as we ask you to describe your opportunity, plan, and progress. And your opportunity is weighted 50% of that score in the first round. So we really do want, it's kind of odd that we end up with this cool mix of companies that maybe have a really, really big idea, but they're still super early, alongside companies that are maybe further along. Maybe they've existed for, 1 to 5 years, but they have been doing it slowly, or they're still kind of building up towards more revenue or more scale. So yeah, we're kind of a weird, it creates a lot of, it depends answers for me, which is always, I think, hard for people to be like, well, just tell me, is it better if I'm big or small or what? And it's usually a combination of those things.
And I'm one of those folks that Jessica was just talking about. So all the years I entered, because video games, they take a few years to put together. So each time I entered, I didn't actually have a product on the market. Still don't have a product on the market. It should be entering the market this year. But yet I was still able to make it through the process. And one of the cool things is, I think it's in the semifinal round when you're preparing your business plan, they ask you for like your 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plan, which is really great to kind of sit and think through about what you want to do and where you want to be.
That was a great question. Thank you, Joanne. We are getting close to the top of the hour, so I want to be kind of thoughtful about folks' times if you have hard stops. But does anybody else have final questions or just final things you would add? Otherwise, please reference the links in the chat. We will be posting this recording to our website if you want to come back to anything that was shared. But there are, I know for both of our organizations, tons more opportunities to continue to like show up to things and learn more and get help, even just as the applications are opening. So it's not like this is your one shot to ask us stuff.
I have a question, Jessica. Hi, I'm Audra.
Hi.
And I'm the founder and CEO of Rocky Robinson, and it is a self-care brand. For the Minnesota Cup, at least some of the businesses that I've noticed, it seems more tech focused. I'm in the CPG space, so I know as a state, we're also focused a lot on like food innovation in CPG. And so what are the thoughts about like something like body care in that social?
Oh, yeah, totally. Well, that's a super good question. We obviously, like, 2 of our speakers in this context do have tech sort of centric products or offerings, but we are completely industry agnostic. So it's always interesting to like kind of get other people's perspective on like which Minnesota Cup companies do you notice or hear about or get the publicity. And those do sometimes have like a tech component to them or like a tech aspect, but we have tons of product-based or CPG or direct-to-consumer companies that go through every year and do really well. My favorite exciting, sexy thing that just happened is Beth Finbo, who created a prototype, went through Minnesota Cup 3 times, and has something that she sells both directly online and through Amazon, was just on Shark Tank last Friday, and is getting a ton of really cool press. And so that, I think, I like the nuances of body care versus other things. I think that's like, we could even just have like an offline conversation if you ever want to just chat through it. But I think our general division is a really great place for product-based companies. We also have a food, ag, and beverage division. So if we often have companies who struggle to choose between food, ag, and bev and impact when they're, have like food security and food justice as sort of their platform. They're like, do I do the food one or the impact one? And we could talk about that, but it's the same for our general division and impact. Like you could have a product-based company and impact, or you could head to our general division where almost everybody is doing something that's product-based, and like it's totally here for you. But yeah, it's a good question. So thank you for asking.
And I remember a couple of years ago, there was a company that it was some kind of special sweater that gave you a hug. I don't know, it was awesome. And then there was another company, they had like special popcorns and stuff made from not corn. I don't know. So like, yeah, there were all kind of cool ideas. There was a Native American company and they did greeting cards. So that was also really cool. So there's a lot of things that I've seen make it to the semifinal round that have been pretty awesome and were product based.
Thanks, Jules. Okay, we are just past 1, so I don't want to keep you all too long, but thank you so much for being here, and just good luck. Thank you for your interest, and I really, on behalf of Katrina and I, we really hope you apply.